Hey guys, all right. So this is part 2 of my I guess my story that I've been telling you guys about what happened to me, how I got to where I was, and how I got out of it. So I left off last time talking about like elementary school years. And so yeah, that was basically the gist of, me being in elementary school, being a little young child. I was surrounded by a lot of friends who were a lot thinner than me, and I kind of saw that they got positive attention, and I kind of associated that with being small. And so that's kind of where the seed kind of got planted in my head, I guess you could say. And so before I hit middle school, my parents had the unfortunate, I guess, circumstance of foreclosure. We lost our house, and it had a lot to do with the fact my mom was diagnosed with lupus when I was a really young child. And so I spent a lot of time as a child growing up taking care of her and, watching her pass out, get sick while throwing up or, throw up while driving, getting sick all the time, having headaches, not being able to play with me, things like that. So, and she couldn't keep up with bills. So we lost our house. So that really, really, really affected me. It really took a toll on me and it basically uprooted me. And I had to grow up really fast in that situation. So we moved to Somerville, which is where my mom was originally from. And we moved into a two-story house. And this is when middle school started, really. I was about 12, 13-ish. And I started hearing, my friends talking about, oh, I heard that you can just throw up and, eat and throw up and then you won't get any weight. And then, or, I was hearing things about like, not eating and it makes you lose weight. And I didn't really think anything about it. And this, whispers going around middle school for a while. And then one night I remember after that I was just randomly trying to throw up just to see if I could. And I couldn't manage to do it. And I cried. I felt like, oh, I'm never gonna be skinny. I'm destined to be fat forever and things like that. So just kind of threw it to the side and was like, okay, push those ideas out of my head. Well, come eighth grade, my parents decided to homeschool me, and I liked it. But the only thing is, I got my work done in like 2 or 3 hours out each day, and so I had like 5, 6 hours of free time because I did my schooling at my family business, that the car repair shop that they owned, and both my parents worked there, so I did my schooling there in the back office, and then I had like 5 or 6 hours to kill. So I spent a lot of time online by myself, and I started discovering on like Tumblr and pro Ana websites, Thinspo, things like that of that nature. And I really got absorbed into that kind of, I guess what you would call a culture, subculture, whatever. And I remember one night, I remember I'd started like cutting down on what I was eating. I was in the back office alone, so we would go and pick up lunch for the business, and I'd get like a baked potato or something, and then I'd be left alone, to eat my lunch, and no one knew anything was going on. So I would completely prepare it, mix it up, and then I would just throw it away. Um, Things like that, and then I remember one night we went to the fair that comes here like every year in October. And we got home and I had eaten some fair food, and I remember getting in the shower and trying to throw up, and I was successful. It was the first time I was ever really, I guess you'd call successful, throwing up my dinner. So After that was really like the downward spiral from that point. And also, it was around this time that I learned that my grandfather had been diagnosed with colon cancer and it had spread to his spine. And he was like the rock of our family. He kind of like held everybody together. He was super big on family. Um, he was just who everybody went to for answers, really. And it it really, really broke me apart when I learned what was happening to him. And that kind of fueled my self-harm behavior because I was so devastated that I was losing him and I didn't know what to do. And then everybody else in my family around me was in denial that we weren't going to lose him. But I could see it day after day after day, him slowly slipping away, and then everybody else around me is in denial, and it was just a big mess. So fast forward to like February-ish. By this point, I had already tried suicide. I don't want to go too much into depth about that because I don't want to trigger anyone and I don't want to give anyone any kind of like bad ideas. I don't want to explain exactly how I tried to commit suicide or anything like that. But I had tried, and I failed. And anyways, February had came around and by this point I was in about ninth grade and I had already decided I didn't want to be homeschooled anymore. I wanted to go back to public school. But my parents didn't want to put me in like the middle of the last semester of the year. So we decided to wait till August. But it was February and I believe it was February 25th. Um we had to go down to the hospice center and say goodbye to my grandfather. And that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Was say goodbye to him. And after that, pretty much everything changed. For a while, the family was really close. We did everything together. We, I don't know if you guys know what Costco is. It's like a where you go and you buy stuff in wholesale in bulk. Um, my aunt had a membership there, so literally, my grandmother, me, my mom, my dad, my aunt, both my aunts, both my uncles, all three of my cousins, we'd all load up into like three different cars and go down to there and like go shopping for all four households together. And at this point, I was like living with my grandma because I was worried about her being alone. And it was just a lot. And then slowly, but surely, it's like but when we were all in like this closeness, I decided to kind of tell my mom and my grandmother what was going on with me. And I got help. That summer I was completely active. I was healthy. I played tennis. I ate. I was happy. And then by August, it was time for me to go back to public school. And I was really, really excited to do this. I was really excited to go back into a public setting and be around other kids my age. And we got me enrolled and I came in and I was recovered. I was like 90 something pounds. And by the time November hit, I was down to about 62 pounds. I had relapsed. It was really, really bad. I was barely ever going to school because I was so sick. Um, by December, I had ended up in emergency care because I was so dehydrated. And the night before, I didn't even know if I was going to wake up the next morning. That's how bad it had gotten. And we went in, we got me help. I got hydrated. I got put on a meal plan. Um, I got healthy. And here's the thing. My family had never really had any bit like good experience with this, nor did they have the money to put me in a treatment facility. So we kind of did things on our own. And then as they saw me get better, they became more lenient. And that was probably not the best decision because the eating disorder started slowly creeping back into my mind, and I wasn't strong enough at 15 on my own to fight it coming back into my mind. And so I started going behind their backs and finding new ways to basically hide what I was doing. And I became very, very, very good at hiding my behavior and what I was doing. So I relapsed around the age of 16. And I was dating boys who were really, really bad for me, who just fueled my self harm behavior. Some of them liked the fact that I didn't eat. They liked the fact that I was so skinny, that they could control me. I ended up getting sexually assaulted by a guy I was dating when I was in 10th grade, and it completely messed me up. I was scared of sex. I was scared of intimacy. I was anything like that. People thought I was a slut because I had a new boyfriend like every 3 weeks. But the truth is, I didn't sleep with a single one of them. I would date them, and then it would get to that point where they would try to pressure me into doing that. And I would say no and freak out because of what had happened to me. And they would dump me and then tell everyone they'd slept with me just to make their boost their ego. And so I got labeled and I was picked on, and I was just going through a lot. And so I relapsed from then until about the point I was, let me kind of put this into perspective. So I'd say I relapsed. I did relapse. But I also didn't want anyone to catch on to what was going on, and I also wasn't trying to necessarily kill myself. It was more of a way of coping with what was going on in my life. So I was taking lots of vitamins. I was taking magnesium. I was taking calcium. I was taking multivitamins, herbal supplements, anything I could to make my skin stay nice, my nails stay nice, my hair stay great, to keep me at a normal looking weight, I guess. But I was still able to do the behavior. So I went off to college. I was still doing all these things. I don't think anyone really knew because no one really said anything to me about it. And then come sophomore year, it was right before sophomore year. I was home. I was working at a gas station. It was my first kind of job. I was a gas station attendant, and it was a really small gas station. I usually worked by myself, small little girl. But I liked it. I liked working with people. I had my regulars, that would come for coffee, my regulars that would come in for lottery tickets, for their beer, whatever. And they'd talk to me, chat, whatever, and then this one guy, he's just started coming in, and I knew him from high school, and he would come in and get his, American Spirits Light Blue, like, every couple of days, a week. And one day he said, don't I know you from somewhere? I said, yeah, we went to school together. We're friends on Facebook. And then, it formed into a relationship. We hung out. I went back off to school. We were dating. I came home at the end of the first semester of my sophomore year and decided I didn't want to go back to school. I decided that I wanted to stay home. I wanted to go to tech school. I wanted to be near him. I wanted to be near my family, my animals. So, yes, I left school. I came home. By this point, I was getting better because of our relationship. I was really happy. I was at a good point in my life.